Titans back on the practice field on Thursday, and we heard from some key members of the team. Brian Callahan, Mike Borgonzi, a few players spoke for the first time since the Titans trimmed down their roster. We also have a few more transactions. Titans named 7 captains. We actually have a lot to talk about for a random Thursday, a week before the NFL season kicks off. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me as always, Justin Melo. Justin, how is it going? Last show of the week, last show we're doing before week 1, game week. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. We said yesterday we didn't know if we would do a show today. And then the Titans practiced, which we didn't really know was happening, to be honest with you, initially. And they made a couple transactions. There's some really interesting things said at the podium by Mike Borgonzi, by several players, all of which were elected captains. So I don't think that was a coincidence who was selected to speak at the podium on Thursday. So you and I decided we actually got quite a bit to talk about. So we did whip a Thursday show together, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, credit to you for putting this rundown together. It's a nice one. I'm excited to get into some of this stuff, but I will say before we start, Justin, just a follow up to something we talked about a couple weeks back. The last time we had Easton on the show, maybe it was, I don't remember if it was last week, the sliding scale of how much we care about a practice. And when training camp opened, we were at 100. And last week talking to Easton after the joint practices, we were at a 30, I said. Today I'm at a 1. Out of 100, how much I care about the individual plays that happened in this practice. Brian Callahan even said last week that the Titans wouldn't use this week to really game plan for Denver because he didn't want players to burn out looking at the same team for 2 straight weeks. So they're kind of just working on like final install, like getting some of their techniques to the final point where they're not really going to be working on those on a daily basis anymore. So we're not necessarily going to comment on the play-by-play of practice today. We're going to talk about who was out there, who wasn't, and yes.
Well, not to call you out, but I don't think we're at the point of the season where we don't get that stuff anymore. Like, I want to say most practices now are closed to the media for that period. Like, there's no reports on the timeline of Cam Ward threw an interception, Cam Ward threw, like, they're getting, this is regular season practice now. That stuff is closed to the media. So we're not getting, the individual practice reports, that's a thing of the past. That's a training camp thing. That's not a regular season thing. The most interesting thing that happened at practice was the injury report. We got some really good, interesting updates about that. But before we get there, as you mentioned, the Titans named 7 captains. I normally wouldn't spend much time on this, but they actually had some interesting comments. The captains did. So normally I wouldn't even talk about these captains, but because of some of the comments. So anyway, captains are Cam Ward, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, Cody Barton, and Morgan Cox. And then when they got up to the podium, of course, Tony Pollard spoke, Calvin Ridley spoke, and Cody Barton. Those were the 3 captains who spoke after practice. When they got to the podium, of course, everyone wanted to ask about Cam Ward. And Tony Pollard started by saying, I'm not surprised that Cam Ward was elected as a leader. He's a natural-born leader. And then Calvin Ridley came up, said something similar. I thought the most interesting thing he said in regards to that question was, he came in like this was his team in relation to Cam Ward. He said, I was quieter at his age, than he is. So thought that was interesting. And then the most notable thing said was by Tony Pollard, where he said, it was iffy who our leaders were last year. Like, I didn't expect him to say that, but, when you're 3-14, maybe not a surprise. He even took it a step further and said, I'm trying to be a bit more vocal, but I think going into this year, there is no question who our leaders are. I thought that was really interesting for Tony Pollard to say that last year they sucked in the leadership department, and it showed on the field. They went 3-14. Shout out to Tyler at Tic Tac Titans, who had an interesting note regarding Cam Ward being elected a captain. Some people had pointed out, well, Marcus Mariota was a captain as a rookie quarterback. Buck caught a lot of shit on Twitter for saying, well, Will Levis was a captain. I don't think he deserved the shit because everyone said, well, not when he was a rookie. Well, he was the backup when he was a rookie. I got what Buck was trying to say. Will Levis wasn't elected a captain last year as a sophomore, his first year as a starter. And I thought it was worth pointing that out by Buck. But what Tyler pointed out that I thought was a really good point was that when Marcus Mariota was elected a captain as a rookie, it was done by the coaching staff. It very much felt forced. You need your number 2 overall quarterback to be a leader, to be a captain. I think we know now that's not who Marcus Mariota is, and the staff was trying to force him into that because he's the face of the franchise. Well, this year, these captains were voted by the players, okay? So Cam Ward was voted a captain by his teammates. If you don't think that means something, just go watch Cody Barton at the podium. I know what I'm doing here. I purposely left this portion for that. So when Cody Barton spoke after Ridley and Pollard, he expressed a lot of genuine a joy for being voted a captain by his teammates. He even said, it's been a goal of mine for a while, and it feels like an honor because it was voted by my teammates and there's no politics involved. The kind of politics that has a coaching staff voting Marcus Mariota as a captain. So for me, I don't put a whole lot into this. I think the Will Levis thing is still fair to point out, but you do feel better about it that Cam Ward was voted by his teammates as opposed to the staff.
Yeah, it's interesting as a rookie in your first training camp to come in and just grab hold of the team the way that he has. He was talking, I've been watching so many Titans personnel and players do interviews on various places. Cam Ward was just on Bussin' with the Boys. If you watched the CBS broadcast of the Titans-Vikings preseason game, they did a halftime special where Charles Davis sat down with Cam Ward that was like edited down, way down. They posted the full 8-minute video on YouTube. I watched that last night. And it was either on Bussin' with the Boys or with Charles Davis that Cam Ward was talking about being a leader and where that, comes from, and that it's a skill that he had to work on, but he also believes you're born with it or you're not, but it's still something you can get better at and improve on, and by being mindful of it. And so it's just interesting hearing him talk about being a leader, hearing all the reports throughout the draft process of, as soon as he got to Washington State, it was his locker room. As soon as he got to Miami, the players were behind him. It was his team. And it seems like it's happening again in Nashville. As soon as he got to Tennessee, he's been a leader from day one, rookie or not. It doesn't matter to him. To him, it's all about winning football games. What can I do as the quarterback to help this team win football games? And one of those major things at the top of the list is be a good leader. So yeah, it's no surprise, but it's great. I mean, this is sort of the trajectory we all hoped he would be on when they selected him back in April. And here we are almost September, and we're right on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think neither of us are surprised by it, right? You've just seen, there's that one picture that went viral of after that bad practice, like everyone's sitting around and he's standing up and it looks like he's vocalizing some disappointment or frustration with the way practice went. Like, these guys are looking to him already, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They don't have a lot of offensive leaders. Like Tony Pollard, self-admittedly, is a quiet guy to the point where he said, I'm trying to be more vocal, and Calvin Ridley, I think is somewhat of a leader, but he's grown into that role. I think Peter Skoronski is very much a quiet, lead by example guy. Dan Moore is not a rah-rah guy at all. The most vocal offensive lineman, Mike Herndon pointed out, not one lineman voted as a captain. They're a quiet group. They really are. The most vocal one is probably J.C. Latham, their sophomore at right tackle. Even Kevin Zeidler has been known to be a quiet guy throughout his career. So, you look to that offense, Cam Ward probably is the loudest one, and not only the loudest one, but the most natural-born leader on the defense. I think you've got a couple of those guys, which is why, Jeffrey Simmons, I think Amani Hooker is a great leader, and he's been growing into that role, especially since Kevin Byard left, because he always kind of felt like Byard's little brother in that room. So Simmons, Hooker, you've got some leaders on defense, but on the offense, it's Cam Ward.
And it's how it should be. I mean, again, that's what you expect and hope would come to fruition is your quarterback is a leader. Cody Barton, we saw the mic'd up of him during, I think it might have been back in OTAs when he's like coaching up David Benda and James Williams. And he's like with his position group more specifically, but really like taking on a true leadership role, like another position coach on the field for these younger guys. So happy for Barton, especially seeing how much it meant to him when he talked about it in his press conference. Last point I'll make on the captains before we get to practice. 7 is a big number. I mean, we've covered this team for a long time. It's usually 5. It's usually 2 on offense, 2 on defense, 1 on special teams, occasionally 6, 2 on offense, 2 defense, 2 special teams. Here you have 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and Morgan Cox on special teams. Nothing. There's no right or wrong way to do it, in my opinion. It's interesting to note in an offseason where Callahan wanted the team and all the players on the team to step up on that accountability department in terms of holding themselves accountable, but most importantly, holding each other accountable. And that Tony Pollard mentioned there was a leadership void. It's like, let's let the team pick more leaders than we normally would so that there's no question if there's a leadership void or not. I just think it's an interesting number to settle on.
The good news is I think all of them are very deserving. That's the most important thing, right? Is that you're not forcing any of this. So you've got 7 guys that you think are going to be leaders, and that's a good place for them to be. Getting to the injury side of practice, really good news across the board for the Titans. Like Lloyd Cushenberry and L'Jarius Sneed practiced in full participants. I mean, we'll, next week when they start releasing injury reports and maybe start doing a bit more, it'll still be worth monitoring because, maybe there's a regression there. But we hope not. And for now, it's a really good sign. I mean, they practiced in full. Calvin really said, they asked him about L'Jarius Sneed. He said, he gave me a little jam at the line of scrimmage today. Like for me, something small, that's a good sign. That's L'Jarius Sneed trying to get back to what and who he is, right? That's how he wants to play football, and he hasn't done it in a year. So good to see that. To me, that's a sign of a guy getting his confidence back, getting his feet back under him.
And I want to say there was a clip surfacing on Twitter of him like tackling a coach during individual drills or something. Like he's just so excited to be back on the field. Brian Callahan did say that L'Jarius Sneed is trending towards being ready for the opener. Quote, he looked good. We're going to keep building his volume to get him ready for week 1. Teron Davenport tweeted that quote. I will just say one more time, Justin, I don't want to be a party pooper or a Debbie Downer. I'll believe it when I see it. When I see that L'Jarius Sneed is active for that week 1 game, which I believe is a 3:15 Central Time kickoff. Yeah. So when the injury final reports come out on 2:30, 2:45, on Sunday.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, when the final game at day activations come out on Sunday and L'Jarius Sneed is active for the game, then I'll buy it.
I think it's going to happen. I think him and Lloyd Cushenberry are going to play in that game. I think they're both strongly trending in the right direction. And I really do. I think L'Jarius Sneed's going to play in that game. I want to drop a quick note here to our listeners because, once in a while I'll throw a bone your guys' way. If conversation I had behind closed doors like a couple months ago, I only feel comfortable talking about now. I don't remember the guy's name. L'Jarius Sneed had an agent who retired recently. He's no longer his agent. I spoke to him back then when there was a lot of stuff coming out about Sneed. He does, he's hurt. He doesn't want to play here. I asked the guy flat out, and this was a very private conversation that took part 4, 5, 6 months ago. Was he just does he not want to be in Tennessee? Was he disappointed by the move for Kansas City? At this point, the agent had already retired. He had nothing to hide. He wasn't even in the business anymore. And he said to me, not at all. I know there's some of that out there in the fan base. It's frustration. He's been frustrated with the injury. There's nothing wrong with him in Tennessee. He's not mad about the move. He's been frustrated. And he's a competitor. You see the way it shows up in the way he plays, right? Like a guy who plays that aggressive is a competitor. So there's never been any hint of him not wanting to be here. There's just been, the quad injury was so weird. He thought it was weird. Why isn't this getting better? So there was just a lot of frustration there with the slow recovery. He was frustrated more than anyone. But continuing the good news on the injury front, T'Vondre Sweat, I guess the tonsils are fully removed and good because he practiced in full. I don't think it was ever in question, not a concern. But, it got weird there for a second where he missed more practices than anyone expected. But him, Cush, Sneed, practiced in full. Kevin Winston Jr. worked on a side field after individual period. Sounds like to me like they're starting to ramp that back up as they should. Same with Kalel Maulings, which not a big deal, but they obviously have a lot of confidence in his availability because they only kept 3 running backs on the active 53-man roster. And of course, with Spears going on IR, they do have 2 running backs on the practice squad. So there's some flexibility there where maybe they don't have to keep 4 on the active roster. But I guess I expected Maulings to practice in full. But I'm really not going to make this a big deal because I think they're very confident that he'll be practicing in full come next week when they have to actually start submitting an injury report and things of that nature.
Yeah, Callahan never did sound concerned after the Vikings preseason game, but it's definitely just one to keep an eye on because that, they could use an early practice squad elevation on one of those 2 running backs if they needed to, if they're only going to have 2 healthy running backs for week 1, but lots of time to figure that out all of next week. There was an important piece of this Titans offensive line who did not practice, and we will talk about that in just a sec because first, I have to take this last chance. This is our last pod of the week. That means it's our last chance to let you guys know, remind you if you already know, that Titans of the South 2025 special edition re-release, complete with its own bonus chapter on the 2024 season, 2025 offseason, a free gift included, the Cam Ward illustrated player trading card, and free shipping if you order titansofthesouth.com. $25 includes shipping. You get that free gift. You get the bonus 2025 chapter. If you don't order by August 31st, you will lose the opportunity to get this special edition of the book. So make sure you go to titansofthesouth.com and order today. Justin, any updates on where we're at with the shipping?
Essentially what I told you guys last time. I have confirmation by the publisher that by this Friday, which is tomorrow, about 250 books, 250 orders will have been shipped out. And then it's full steam ahead. Every day we will see another, outflux, if you will, of orders being shipped. So if you're ordering it today or by the 31st, of course you weren't part of that initial 250 that shipped out, but you're going to get it really soon. And it will include your free gift. I don't want there to be any confusion there. As long as you order by the 31st, you are going to get the bonus chapter and you are going to get the Cam Ward illustrated trading card, which is just a bonus gift included in that. So as long as you order by that date, no matter when your book arrives, if it's a week from now, a week and a half from now, early September, you will absolutely get your free gift. But only if you go to titansofthesouth.com and place your order by the 31st. As I said, I've been overwhelmed with the response. We've honestly almost sold as many books. I give away too much info. I'm too nice. We've almost sold as many books in this period that we did all of last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the excitement over Cam Ward, the free gift that we're giving away. Who wanted to support a book in the middle of the season when they were 3-10? I don't think anyone bought anything. I was getting emails from the Titans, 30% off our official website. They were trying to move. They couldn't move merch, I don't think. So you guys have been, the book has been moving so well this year. I didn't expect this at all. I thought we'd see a little bit of activity. But the fact that we've sold as many as we have, I'm so glad. The publisher had to order more copies. He was like, we're getting more from the warehouse because we're running out of 2025 iteration. So excited. But please, if you haven't gotten it yet, titansofthesouth.com, order by the 31st. I cannot wait, Graver, to see that first comment on one of these videos next week, fingers crossed, next week that says, I got my book. The trading card is gorgeous. I can't believe how pretty this is. I cannot wait to see that first comment.
Yeah, same, absolutely. And another shout out to Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. If you head to their website, sinkersbeverages.com, you can join the in crowd, sign up, and you will get access to exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats, so check them out. Justin, the player who missed practice, I'm not going to say I'm concerned yet. Again, everything we just said about all the other guys, there's time. And they're being cautious this week. They're not game planning for Denver this week. There is time. It's a slight eyebrow raise, though, that J.C. Latham, according to Brian Callahan, is dealing with some soreness. They will see how he does throughout the weekend, and then they'll determine his workload for next week. Callahan is not concerned. Are you?
No, I'm not. I mean, if the head coach isn't concerned, why would I be, right? When he missed a couple practices last week and they talked about the hip, he said, not concerned. And, I guess I will say probably lingered a little longer than I expected it to. I didn't think this would be the case on Thursday, but we're still 10, 11 days out from the game, which is going to come up quickly. As a fan, I can't wait, but 10, 11 days out is a long time when you're dealing with a little soreness. TBD, let's see what happens, Monday, Tuesday of next week when they're preparing for the Broncos and those practices are, in-game like settings to a degree of where, you're preparing for the opponent. So we'll see. But no, as of now, I'm not concerned.
I would say my concern is like a 2 out of 5, 4 out of 10. Like it's not,
I'm not 3 out of 10 for me. I'm at like a 3 out of 10.
Like, I'm not concerned yet, but I could see myself there's just something in these comments that I'm picking too closely at them. And like Brian Callen's just talking off the cuff and he's not thinking about how I'm going to interpret this, obviously. But like they're going to have to see how he does through the weekend. Tells me that like they're not 100% confident he'll be back next week. If they still need to see, it's not like, oh, just take this one more day and then we'll see how you are. It's like, we have to see how you are through the weekend. And then Brian Callahan can tell people he's not concerned. That's what he's going to do. That doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't think he would say it if there was any sliver of chance that he misses week 1. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm taking him too much at his word there. But moving on, Mike Borgonzi, the GM, did speak with reporters, local beat writers as well, before practice, so before the players spoke, and talking about the 53-man roster, talking about cut down day. Honestly, a lot of GM speak. Mike Borgonzi is really good at saying nothing, when it comes to it. Like, I'll give you an example. They asked him about, great question, when they talked about all the acquisitions, none at edge. Are you looking to make a move there? No, 5 new additions, not one edge. Everyone thinks this is the weakest position group. He started the answer with the classic, well, we're thinking about making a move at every position. Like, we're always looking at what's out there. And the question had a great caveat. There are a couple of veterans out there who are waiting for money and opportunity, like, hint, hint, a Jadeveon Clowney, a Preston Smith, yada, yada. And, well, we're always looking, at every position. He even went as far as to say, why did I get dinged?
You said yada, yada. It just took me like 10 seconds.
It's second nature at this point. Damn it. Got to work on that. Got to coach better. Got to play better. But Mike Borgonzi did say, I like the job that our edges have done this summer. I mean, I wanted to ding him if I was in the room because that's a lie. Lie detector determined. Well, anyway, he said he's confident in the – well, we'll know if he's telling the truth or not based on his actions, okay? If they go out and sign Preston Smith, then he's not satisfied with the edge group. If he doesn't do anything, then I guess he is satisfied and he thinks they're going to be better than we think they're going to be. We'll see on that. Other interesting thing he said, I don't think he said a whole lot of interesting things, but talked about Chimere Dike, and he said he's going to be back there when they asked him about the punt returner role. One of the reasons we drafted him, he said, which I never loved. I mean, 4th-round pick, I never loved that. He drafted him to play wide receiver, but I'm probably grasping at straws, maybe neither here nor there. But I'm not calling anyone out, but when I heard him say it, to me, I didn't take it as like he's definitely our punt returner, but all the beat writers essentially tweeted, like Mike Borgonzi said, Chimere Dike is going to be the punt returner. I thought there was still I still think there's a chance they could elevate James Prochet from the practice squad in week 1 and have him do it. But the beat writers immediately, and I wasn't in the room, obviously, beat writers kind of ran with, he's the punt returner. The way I interpreted it was like, oh, like he's going to be back there. He could be, like, he's an option back there, but anyway.
No, I'm glad you said that because honestly, I had the same thought. Was like, yeah. I watched the press conference. I saw all the beat reporter tweets and I was like, he didn't confirm. Like the tweets were like, Borgonzi confirms that Chimere Dike will return punts or announce it, whatever. It's like, kind of, but
I thought the same thing you did.
Like, he also talked about how happy they were to get James Prochet back on the practice squad and what kind of versatility and value he adds on special teams. And they have 3, I should say, practice squad elevations before they have to bring him back on the roster. Right. But that's basically 3 weeks of figuring out. Borgonzi even used the words roster gymnastics, quote, in this press conference. So like they acknowledge that that's what they're doing. He definitely did not confirm 100% that Chimere Dike will be lined up to receive the first punt of week 1. It's like, yeah, we feel okay about his ability to do so. But Fossil said, like, not 2 weeks ago that if the game started 2 weeks ago, they played 1 game since then. They've had like 6 practices maybe since then. That he does not feel confident or comfortable in Chimere Dike being the guy back there. He's not ready yet. So let's just wait and see on this one because I totally think James Prochet could be the one receiving or returning the first punt of the season.
I want to say something real quick about Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. I'm a nerd. I wrote an article. It's coming out next week on Titan Sized. I'm essentially going to read you the article, but the audiences are different. That's okay. Essentially, one of the biggest surprise inclusions on the 53-man roster, right? We were all shocked by that. Now, the Titans waived Corey Levin and John Njoku. Like, we all thought Crenshaw Dixon was going to be off the roster, right? Well, Mike Borgonzi, the more I looked into this, essentially confirmed, and some of it was already out there on Twitter, but they thought Crenshaw Dixon would get claimed if they put him out there on waivers, right? The more I looked into this, I wrote a whole article about it, the more I think he was spot on. And this is terrific. This is a lesson in asset management, okay? Mm-hmm. He even said, the practice squad nowadays, because you've got the elevations, it feels like you've got a 70-man roster. It's an extension of the 53. All 32 teams are tasked with holding on to their best 70 players, okay? I don't believe they would have been able to do that if they waived Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. I looked around the league. The Kansas City Chiefs tried to do it. They waived an undrafted rookie offensive tackle. He got claimed by the New York Jets. There were 3 offensive linemen traded for 2027 or 2028 NFL draft picks. Why? because something is better than nothing. And yes, that might sound like nothing, but it's not nothing. It's a draft pick and it's another dart throw. It's something you could package to move up into the 5th, 6th round and get a Jarvis Brownlee Jr. It is something. One of those guys who got traded for a pick is a sophomore D2 guy who's never played. Like, he's totally raw. NFL teams hold on to offensive. That might be more true at offensive line than any other position in the NFL. Mike Borgonzi nailed it.
Did you see the Rams waived with an injury designation Willie Lampkin?
And he got picked up.
Who was the highest graded offensive lineman, according to PFF, of the preseason, grain of salt, whatever.
40 pounds. No,
he's undersized. He was pancaking dudes nonstop in the preseason. They didn't even disclose what the injury was because they thought we waive him injured. Oh, he's injured. No one's going to claim him. He'll revert to our IR. We don't necessarily need him this year, but we like him a lot. We definitely don't want to lose him. They tried to play this game, and they got burned because the Eagles said, hey, we got Jeff Stoutland. We're going to bring this guy in and make him a freaking all-pro.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look around the league. Michael Jarrell, Asim Richards, KT Levison, 3 offensive linemen you've never heard of, all traded instead of cut because they would have gotten claimed on waivers. And the Titans did not want to lose Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. So what do? They waive Corey Levin. He's a vested veteran. Doesn't have to clear waivers. Immediately re-sign him to the practice squad. They waive John Njoku. Mini risk, but guess what? They've put him through waivers like 5, 6, 7 times the last 3 years. He's always cleared, okay? And it sounds like he did clear and will re-sign to the Titans practice squad today. By the time you listen to this, he'll be back on the Titans practice squad, 99.9% sure. I even tweeted it. This was a lesson in asset management by Mike Borgonzi. In my opinion, he nailed it. The last 3 things I'm going to say before we get out of here, the additions to the practice squad. I already mentioned Corey Levin, confirmed he's rejoined the practice squad. We had some confusion discussion over Clay Webb yesterday. Thankfully confirmed he's on the practice squad. Look, Denver, by the way, they waived an undrafted rookie, and he chose to leave them and go to a different practice squad. Tennessee benefits there. Gets a guy that they probably had a borderline draftable grade on. He was at the Senior Bowl. Sam Webb, the other outsider, 2 Webbs, both outside, the only 2 outsiders, to join the practice squad. I did a lot of homework on him because I'm a nerd. Undrafted free agent in 2022 with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a cornerback. Guess who the Las Vegas Raiders GM was when they signed him as a UDFA? Titans assistant general manager Dave Ziegler. 100% this is a Dave Ziegler call. He played 300-something snaps on defense for them as a rookie. Graded out pretty well. A lot of that was due to injury, though. Didn't get on the field as much the next 2 years, but stayed in the NFL, mostly with the Raiders. Had a brief stint where the Carolina Panthers plucked him when they had all those injuries at corner. He went back to the Raiders this year. I hit my Twitter timeline if you want more info. I tweeted out a clip of him breaking up a pass intended for Deebo Samuel in the preseason last year. He's right in Deebo's hip pocket. He breaks it up, tips it into the air, gets picked off by one of his teammates. That happened in the preseason. I'm done. That's all I've got for you. Those are the practice squad updates. John Njoku re-signs, they're going to have to cut someone because they're at their max capacity.
So here's the deal. Right now, Njoku's not part of the 17, and they have 17. Gabe Judy-Lawley and Curtis Jacobs, who we talked about a lot yesterday, also not on the practice squad. So I expect what the practice squad looks like. I mean, we'll see if Judy-Lawley clears waivers on Thursday, which is today. Didn't
he already clear on Wednesday? So technically,
no, because he was cut. Judy-Lawley was cut on Wednesday, yesterday.
True.
So he's got to go through but by the time this pod comes out, he will have either cleared or not cleared. And the Titans might make another move there. They might let Oruwariye go or somebody else to get Gabe Judy-Lawley back. They might cut an offensive lineman to get Njoku back. We'll see. All I want to say is we don't know how that's going to shake out. Curtis Jacobs, maybe not. Somebody else could be cut from the practice squad. By the time we are on the mic again next, I predict this practice squad will have at least 2 different players, if not 3. But we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, Njoku I can confirm is definitely going to happen. So they're going to be cutting one of those guys that's a part of the current one right now. We'll see on like a Gabe Judy-Lawley or a Curtis Jacobs. I agree. I think there's a chance that they've got no linebacker on that unit right now, I think, right? And they've only got 4 on the active roster. So to me, that's a pretty strong indication they'll be adding Curtis Jacobs there or a linebacker at some point. But that's neither here nor there. That does it for this episode.
Wait, Justin. It does it for the episode. Sorry. Yes, we're wrapping up the episode. I just want to tell everyone what's coming up next week, because next week is game week. So everything changes about our show, our formula, everything. Like, we're not doing the coming up with what we're going to talk about anymore. We get into sort of a rhythm for the week. Coming on Monday, assuming that I have, I'm promising this to you guys, so I'm going to have to hold myself to it. Labor Day. Happy Labor Day weekend, everybody. Monday, stat projections for the 2025 Titans offense. Focus mostly on Cam Ward. Everything else is going to have to be grain of salt. I'm going to project the whole offense, but I am really guessing on target share for Shimmeray, DK, Alec Ayaman, Van Jefferson, the whole receiving core. Who the heck knows? Running back workload. I'm plugging in what I'm plugging in as if they're all going to play a whole season. Obviously, Tajay Spears is missing 4 games, but I'm not going to modify his percentage of carries and Khalil Mullen, because my formulas are based on the whole season. They're not based game to game. So some slight caveats, but I'm really excited to finally have the stat projections out. I was waiting this long because I wanted to see how the receiver rotation sort of looked throughout preseason and training camp, to have an idea of how much Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett are going to play and dominate the snaps compared to the rookies coming up, how much Gunnar Helm actually looks like he might be taking receiving snaps away from Chigakonko, so that we've got as clear a picture as we're going to get before week 1. So I'm going to do my best. I think what my Cam Ward projections are going to be within a very close range of possibility. Everyone else is totally up in the air, and we'll see what happens with that. Tuesday, Justin and I will be back for our final non-week 1 focus show, where we do our Titans season predictions, bold predictions. We're going to talk about Cam Ward's chances to win Rookie of the Year and any other predictions we have. I have a super, super hot take prediction that I'm going to give on that show that I don't even necessarily believe, but I could see it down the line. So I want to get it on the record just in case. So I have a clip to tweet if it happens sometime next year. Super hot one. We'll get to that on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we're going to start previewing Titans Broncos. We haven't lined it up yet, Justin, but we're going to try to get a guest for that show, try to do our own preview on Thursday of next week. And then Sunday, week 1, Justin and I will recap Titans Broncos live right here on the Music City Audible YouTube channel. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so, but that's a loaded schedule next week. We'll mix in some practice reports, of course, as well, because Brian Callahan will talk again. We'll get more injury reports. So we'll include that stuff, of course, to make sure we're keeping you up to date. But excited, man. We got a loaded schedule next week for the whole season, right? We're going to be going. This is pretty much becoming a daily pod, it feels like, certainly during the weekday. So we'll be coming your way. We hope you guys continue to consume the content. You've been so supportive and really awesome. So thank you guys for helping this show grow. You've really done a phenomenal job.
And you can keep helping us by hitting that subscribe button, liking this video, drop a comment below, and send the podcast to a friend. Send it to a bunch of friends. Send it to a group chat. We really appreciate everyone for supporting this show, for supporting Justin and Titans of the South, for supporting us. We appreciate Sinkers Beverages, so make sure you check out the In Crowd. And until Monday, stats projection video. Set some time aside on your Labor Day holiday, because you're going to want to watch this one. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.